North Carolina has always had a rich musical heritage, and we're proud to be a part of such a great treasure.
Join Brooke and I as we talk to some of our favorite musicians, some good friends from our home state of North Carolina. Hear their story and see how bluegrass music has shaped their lives and their career.
Hi, and welcome to another of the Carolina Sessions with Darin and Brooke Aldridge. This week we have a special guest and good friend of ours here in North Carolina, Mr. Lou Reid. How are you?
I'm doing good, Brooke. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being a part. We just had, some questions we want to ask and let the folks out there know what it was like for you growing up in North Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in music?
Well, my mother, I've told this story a few times. My mother said that I was playing at about the age of 2 or 3 years old, but I would pick up a fireplace shovel or a broom, and when this Valleydale pig commercial would come on, they would play big band instruments for Valleydale sausage and stuff, and I would play. She said she knew real early that I had some kind of musical talent, and but she didn't know where it would go, of course. And then I started picking up the guitar at about 5 or 6 years old, and I just started playing with my thumb. I was so small. I'm still not very tall, but I would play it like a dobro, but I play it with my thumb or my fingers, and I play Wildwood Flower and something like that, just to, because my daddy wouldn't buy me a small guitar. So anyway, I got started in music. My daddy played banjo and guitar and harmonica and a little bit of old time fiddle, and my mother and daddy would sing. It was the old style. And I thought that was pretty neat too. They could really sing. They're no longer with us though. But anyway, those were the good times back in those days.
Absolutely.
And what part of North Carolina did you grow up, Lou?
I was born and raised in Stokes County. It's just north of Winston-Salem, which is Forsyth County, about 25 miles. I was born at right at the foot of Hanging Rock State Park, Moore's Wall, which is a mountain, Sauratown Mountain. And I'm only about 10 or 12 miles from Pilot Mountain. Like Andy Griffith, the Mount area, I can be in Mount area in 20, 25 minutes. Pretty in that area.
Right. Well, again, me and Brooke's awful excited. I know I talked to you about this early on, getting you on this show, and you're one of the first people we asked, and I'm glad the schedule worked out where we could do so.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and I really appreciate you inviting me. There for a while, our internet went out, and I thought I needed internet. I'm not using internet now. I'm just using a package, which is okay. So, but I'll try to answer your questions. So you have a few.
Well, what's the first, I guess, jam sessions or places around Stokes County and the Winston area that when you started picking with other people and getting out and playing in the community, what was some places that stood out to you where you got to meet folks and play like that in North Carolina?
Well, at the very start of my playing, I actually was not playing bluegrass. I was playing rock and roll. I was trying to play rock and roll. And at about 9 or 10 years old, the Beatles hit, and I was a big Beatles fan. And my sister, she's 7 years older than me, and she would have me stay up with her and watch Elvis movies late at night. She was a big Elvis fan. And of course we became, a Beatles fan. So in elementary school, I won a talent show in the 6th grade, and I also won it again in the 8th grade. And we were not really good, but we had fun with it anyway. But through that process, I met a couple of guys really. One was Jeff Hooker. He's deceased now, but he was a good friend of mine. He was the first guy that I played bluegrass with. And his daddy and my daddy used to play music together also. They also worked together. So that was my first connection, was with Jeff Hooker. And then there was a friend of ours, mine and Jeff's, named Steve Collins. Steve Collins introduced us to Jimmy Haley and Myron Nunn. And they had just broken up with a couple of musicians, one of them being Myron's brother, Ronnie. And we just decided that I went down and I was playing fiddle. I hadn't played an upright bass. I never had one in my hands before. So when we had our first practice, Jeff was playing bass and I was playing mandolin. And it was actually Jeff's mandolin that I was playing, his dad's mandolin. It was a little A model Gibson. So, and we used Ronnie's old bass. So Jeff, by the time we played a few tunes, he had blisters on his fingers, and he said, Lou, would you mind trying to play bass? He said, I've got all these blisters on my fingers, and it's about to kill me. And he was probably a better mandolin player than me, and maybe a better bass player too. But anyway, I just took my hand at bass, and it kind of, you know, became natural. So it wasn't long after that, my dad took me down to Camel Pawn Shop in Winston-Salem, and I bought a brand new bass, upright bass. And that's when I first started playing. You know, I'd already played some electric guitar and a little electric bass, but I never had my hands on an acoustic. And I just thought that was real neat. That acoustic bass sounded so good, you know. And it got me. And we were first called the North Carolina, Carolina, Virginia boys, or the Virginia Carolina boys. I forget. It's been so long ago. But then I don't know who named us, but they named us the Bluegrass Buddies. And, you know, we're 13, 14, 15 years old. You know, none of us can drive. And, but Alcree Nunn would just haul, Myron's daddy would haul us all over the country to play. Several nights we'd play 2 fiddlers conventions. You know, we would play, I can't even remember, maybe Granite Quarry as an example or something. Then we'd go from Granite Quarry to Mount Airy and do a fiddlers convention the same night. And then Myron's uncle would stay to see if we won anything to pick up our prizes.
That's right.
And that was the very start. It really wasn't a jam session. We got together and we liked each other. And then from there, we formed that band. And that was our first band. So.
Well, you and Jimmy Haley went on to form, what was Southbound? Is that the name of the band?
Yeah, we went to Atlanta, Georgia. And we moved down there, and it was Jimmy Haley and myself, Jimmy Smith, Hershey McMillan, and Jeff Hooker. And now I was playing bass at that time too, acoustic bass, and we played a place called the Apothecary Lounge, and it was just a little kind of adjacent to trying to think of the name of the club, Scarlett O'Hara's. And it was part of the underground. Now they've all done it up and it's all modern. Back then it was candle lights, you know, and it looked real dungy. You know, I mean, it was like a dungeon almost. Gravel floor or road. And you would go from one club to another. That's kind of what it was like. But now it's like going in a Johnny Rockets, you know, it's all modern and everything. It's not anything like it used to be.
Yeah.
So that's our name, Southbound, and the guy that booked us, we were actually the Sounds of the Second Edition. Before that, we did a little record in Mount Airy for Russell Easter from the Easter Brothers.
Oh yeah.
And, so we did that. That was a fun little project that we did. And then when we moved down there, the guy that was booking us at the time named us Southbound, and it had all these arrows going, but it was all pointing south. You know, we didn't care, just a name. So we played that for about a year or so, and that was a lot of fun. And
right.
A lot of fun.
Well, what happened in y'all's career next? I've heard a lot of different things, and we've been friends, you know, a long time. I've asked you some of this stuff before, but I'd heard.
No.
I guess Doyle had heard y'all somewhere and hired you and Jimmy. Is that right?
Okay, so how that came about was Ronnie Freeland. Ronnie's deceased, and his dad, Dick Freeland, is also deceased. Dick Freeland owned Rebel Records first. So Ronnie wanted to make us his pet band. So anything he wanted to do, his father would allow. You see what I'm saying? So we did one album. It came out. So the second album was going to be produced by Eddie Adcock on one side. See, you had albums back then, so you do side A and side B. So I forgot what, but I believe Doyle produced the first side, and then Eddie Adcock produced the second side. Well, they both played on at least one song. And what happened during that process is we did a gospel song with Doyle. Oh, it's been so long ago, I'm trying to remember the name of the song. But anyway, he sang baritone. So he heard Jimmy and I sing. So, and he was still with the Country Gentleman, of course. And then Eddie did his side, and he played electric guitar, that Bender guitar that he had, you know. And anyway, banjo, banjo, dobro, whatever it was he had, he played on there. So Doyle, it wasn't too long after that, we were in Greenville, South Carolina, playing a place called Dino's Lounge. And Jimmy called me and said, man, guess who I just got a call from? I said, who's that? He said, Doyle Lawson. He's looking to form a band. I said, oh, okay. He said, expect a call from him. So long story short, Doyle called me, but I'd quit the band, and Terry Bonkelman actually took my place. He, Monroe or Charlotte's not too far from Greenville, maybe an hour and a half or so. And so I just kind of got tired of the playing. I'd went a little bit of a different direction and met this girl and so on. So anyway, I decided told Doyle I didn't want to do it. I just said, Doyle, I'm sorry. I've just kind of got out of it. I was crazy. It's just one of them little things I at the time. And so Doyle said, and he kept on trying to hire me. So he said, well, I want you to think about this and I'll call you in a week. I said, okay. So he called me back, and I thought about it. And Jimmy and this guy named Bob Christmas, which was a good friend of ours from that area. And they came over to the house and said, Lou Reid, we just go and try it. Let's just go up to Keysville and just try it. It's Keysville, Virginia. And I said, okay, yeah, we'll go to Keysville, Virginia. We'll give it a shot. I didn't even have a bass. I had a Fender Artist Model banjo, and I got that for half the price I could get a Gibson banjo, and I didn't have the money, so that's why I got the Fender. And so anyway, there was a guy named Al Osteen. He played a lot like Sonny Osborne and sang low tenor and baritone. We had a band too, and we played Underground Atlanta and Muhlenbrinks, and we played Muhlenbrinks. They opened one in Nashville on West End. So we went and helped open that one too at that time. We're talking about 73 maybe. I'm just guessing here, 74. And so anyway, I'd met Al. So we went up and we tried out with Doyle, and we borrowed a bass up there, and the bass was the intonation was so bad. I couldn't even adjust it to get it right. Yeah. So, but Jimmy said, oh, Lou will bend the string in tune. Yeah, Jimmy thought I was a magician or something. And so anyway, well, we played enough that we knew it sounded pretty good. So I just said, well, I'll tell you what, let me go get a real bass. And I said, we'll give this thing another shot. So I went back to Greenville. Well, I called Al Osteen, and I said, Al, look, I need a bass, and I need a pretty decent bass. And I told him the situation, and I said, but I don't have any money. And he said, well, you got anything to trade? I said, well, I got a Fender Artist Model banjo. He said, really? I said, yeah. You have a case with it? I said, yeah, it's in a case. And he said, I tell you what, I've got this Fender P bass that I think you'd really like. And it's a pre-CBS. He said, so it's a really good bass, and it's got a strap on that said Midnight Rambler. And so I went, and it had an amp with it too. That amp was so big. I was so small at the time, I could barely pick it up. But I got that, and I took it to Keysville, Virginia, and we moved in this house just down the street, within a mile from Doyle's house, maybe half a mile. And we played, and well, after we played, we got the house, and we decided we'd be a band. So, and that's how I got started. But when Doyle called me the second time, he said, look, Lou, I done been told you're a great bass player, and I've already heard you sing. He said, if you will tell me yes, I'll turn in my notice to the Country Gentleman today.
How about
so I told him, okay.
Yeah. Well,
that's how we got started.
And the music world is a better place for it. I can tell you that.
I don't, we were just, I have a lot of respect for Doyle. I had a lot of respect at the time. He's such a great musician and a nice arranger, and he can find great songs. He's a pretty good guy, really. And I really had a lot of respect for him. And so it went really well. We didn't have everything we tried to do, we rehearsed for about 6 weeks nonstop. Every day we take one day off a week just to give ourselves a break. But we really played all the time. I remember one time we were rehearsing, and Doyle said, I tell you what, let's do. He said, let's start a song. Everybody go a different direction and go in a different room. And when we come back, we're still in time. We're pretty tight.
Yeah.
That's what we did. I don't know if that made any difference. It could have been a mental thing, mentally. But anyway, it worked, and the rest is history. And we just were having a good time. We were just having a good time.
I've got a couple live tapes of y'all doing that, and a couple of them are from Green Acres Music Hall up here.
Oh, I remember Green Acres.
Yeah.
I sure do. Dirt floor and the pews in there.
That's it. That's it.
Green Acres Music Hall.
Ballstick, North Carolina.
Ballstick, North Carolina. You said it. That's pretty close to home for you.
Yeah, it ain't about 30, 40 minutes from here. So
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, listen to Terry talk a little bit about those tales and the stories about Quicksilver, and we appreciate you adding yours as well. Interesting stuff. I know the first time I heard y'all actual live, it was the reunion show, and y'all was up at First Class Bluegrass, probably
Right.
97, 98, somewhere around in there, man. And that was just amazing every time we get to hear y'all play.
We've done a few of those, the reunions, and they've usually went off pretty good. There's time we'll turn the time around on a fast one or something.
Right.
But I have to go back and go to base, and I have to practice a little at a time. I'll have a blister on my finger, my index finger on my right hand, and because I can use a pick, but it feels so different,
Right.
So I have to play with my fingers. But by the time I'm done rehearsing for about a month, I usually build another callus up on that finger. So I go from mandolin and guitar to bass all of a sudden, out of the blue. It's a lot of fun to do. It's fun to look back at the things you've done in the past, and you didn't realize really what you were doing, and maybe historically you were doing something that people really love or like, and I'm just glad to be part of it, to have been a part of it.
Who was some people out of the North Carolina area that you really looked up to, or kind of helped you come along in the music, around your hometown, or just anywhere that you got out the fiddlers conventions that you saw that, man, I want to be like that or do that?
I was overwhelmed going to fiddlers conventions. I was young, and we were in high school. I was in freshman in high school, and we were going to play all these places and meeting new musicians and people, and just once in a while, you'd run across some people that just blow you away because you're so new to me that. My dad took me to see Flatt and Skaggs 3 times at least at Sandy Ridge, North Carolina. And I got to see them live, and that was an amazing thing to see. And that was before I even played bluegrass. I'm talking about I was 8 years old, 9, 10, and I absolutely loved it and saw them hit that stage, and the charisma that those guys had, Lester Flatt being Ernest Tubb in bluegrass music, he was just such MC and such a great front man, and then Earl throw that banjo around, and Josh Graves come with that dobro leaned up, just jump right in. People are still trying to do that one mic thing now like they did, and there's something to be said about that because, they mix themselves in a way. They didn't need sound men out there that cannot get it right. And Fred Travers always said when he comes back is a different person. He wants to be a sound man because you don't really need to know what you're doing to be a sound man. Anyway, but we do have a good sound tech. But anyway, those things is really what got me to watching. And then when I started playing bluegrass, I saw people like, I kind of draw a blank on some of them, but I'd see someone like L.W. Lambert, for instance. And L.W. could do like beer barrel polka. Well, I just didn't hear the bill other than Earl Scruggs. I didn't hear beer barrel polka. I can't even talk today. Out in a fiddlers convention, and I just thought it was so neat. And he played it without a capo, and I thought that was kind of neat, and interesting. I would see people like Herb Lambert could play any style of mandolin you wanted to hear, from Sam Bush to Bill Monroe. Yeah. He could do it all. And he became kind of a dear friend a little later on in life. He'd come see me when I'd play the old rock school back in the day, And just people like that. Garland Shooping. I remember going up to Garland Shooping one time, and I believe I was in Granite Quarry at that time. And I went up to him and I said, Garland, could you just show me that roll you're doing there? Because I was so eager to learn. And Myron, our banjo player, he played a forward roll. He never reversed his roll. It was a little bit like Ralph Stanley, just a forward motion all the time.
Yeah.
But Skaggs did the forward and reverse roll and the alternate roll, and I thought that was really neat. And I learned about that a little bit later. But Garland Shuping would show, the late Garland Shuping would show me that. You know, he was just as nice as he could be, eager to show me anything I wanted to know. And you got to meet people like that. And I just thought it was great times for me.
Yeah, man, I got to meet most all of them except LW, and you know, they was nice folks, and a lot of those people, same folks, have come up a lot in the last.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, trying to think of. Me and Terry and I was talking about him as a fiddle player, and oh gosh, I'm trying to think of his name. It won't come to me, but Tommy Malbuth.
Oh yeah.
Could really draw the bow now. That guy could play. You know, he'd like to drink, but he play. You know, and he never let you down when he drew the bow. He could play that fiddle. You know. So,
Chubby Anthony from over here in North Carolina. He was from Cherryville, and I know he moved up to Virginia maybe, and then to Florida.
Yeah, I got to see all of those pretty much. You know, everybody you saw, I probably got to see too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a lot older than you, but I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah.
You got to.
I got to catch right at the end of a lot of the good ones, and man, it's just.
Well, that's your youth, Darin.
We'll keep moving on here.
Okay.
Next for you after Doyle's band?
Well, I went with the Ricky Skaggs band after Doyle, and I joined Ricky in 1982. I joined Doyle in April 1st, 1979. That's when we said we're official band, and on April Fool's Day of all days. And I don't think we fooled anybody, but I stayed there 79, 80, 81. It was almost 4 years, but we did 3 records.
Yeah.
And I remember being good friends with Jerry Douglas, and I don't want to be negative about anything, but I just felt the need to want to move on. I'll put it like that, you know, and I just wanted to move on. And I asked Jerry, I said, he said, I said, you think the Whites would hire me to play fiddle or something? Because I could play some fiddle back then, decent, you know. And he called, and I remember getting a call from Sharon. Sharon said, Lou, man, we really love your singing and we love everything, you know, but, you know, the Whites have their own singing and everything. And we wouldn't want to hold you back, you know, and all that. But I mean, back then I didn't really care. You know, I wasn't thinking about singing. I wasn't thinking about anything really. And just like Jerry, we're pretty good buddies. Next thing I know, I got a call from Bobby Hicks and Ricky wanted to hire me. So that's how that came about. Yeah. And so in June 1st, 1982, I joined Ricky Skaggs. And I was there exactly 4 years. I left in 1986, June 1st. That was my last. And I'd had several people online that I could have joined at that time. Now, I could have stayed in Nashville, or I could have moved to LA. I could have done more than one thing. I won't go into it, but I wanted to go back home. I don't know why. I just wanted to go back. I was gone all the time with Ricky. I was gone 280 days a year with travel days. And I didn't want to be gone that long. And my son was being born. He was born 1 month. He was 30 days old when I left. Wow. And I wanted to help raise him, you know, and be around him more. I was just gone all the time. I was home 1 year out of 4. That's not a lot. Yeah. And so I decided to do that. And that's when Mike Aldridge called me a couple of years prior and wanted to hire me. And I said, well, Mike, I said, I need to think about this because it was a big career. I just need to make up my mind what it was I really wanted to do. And I decided to kind of go back home to the bluegrass music, which I'd had more my upbringing was through that really more than anything else. And I enjoyed being with Ricky Skaggs. Now, don't get me wrong. That was my college years in music right there. Okay. I enjoyed it. So,
Ricky,
but it was fun. And so I got almost 30 years in the scene.
I hear
Go ahead.
Ricky was probably, I mean, 82, 83. I mean, he was on top of the world at that time, wasn't he? I mean, that's when.
Yeah, he hired me on a Sunday. Wait a minute. No. Yeah. He said, Crying My Heart Out goes #1 tomorrow. And that was on a Monday.
Yeah.
So I think he had about 13 #1 hits. So
played utility, I guess, in the band, didn't you? A little banjo, a little mandolin guitar, and some twin fiddle.
I'm surprised he allowed me to play those things, to be honest with you. But I guess you could call me a utility musician. I remember, and I know this, this sounds conceited. I don't mean to do that, but Lee Greenwood, we did a lot of shows with a lot of different artists, And I remember Lee Greenwood, we did a lot of shows with him. Lee Greenwood, I was approaching him one day. He was coming into the theater, and I was going out. And he said, he just paid. He said, Mr. Talent. That's all he said, Mr. Talent.
Mr. Talent. I'll remember that.
So funny. That's all he said. He didn't say anything else.
Got it right.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny.
I know that was some great years. But as you mentioned, Mike calling you, and then you went, I guess, straight to the Seldom Scene.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. He called me about 2 years prior, and I kept him on hold for a long time. I couldn't make up my mind. I was with a great band. It was a lot of fun, but I was just gone so much.
Yeah.
And then I found Sean, my son. He's now 34, but and lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado. But when he was being born, I had to really do a lot of thinking, and I looked at it like, I was brought up on a farm. We raised tobacco. A lot of people in North Carolina raise tobacco. And so we always did that. And I thought bluegrass is a lot like a farmer. You go out in the summertime and you get all your work and you harvest, and then in the fall it slows down, and in the winter months and in spring it picks back up again. I thought, yeah, that's what I needed to do. Although with the Seldom Scene, they did a lot of winter work also. We did a lot of theaters and stuff. And so they were pretty strong. When I joined them, it's pretty strong, actually. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed working with John Duffy. He was a hoot, that's for sure.
Absolutely. With Mike Aldridge and T. Michael.
Yeah, I'm losing a little sound, Darin. I'm sorry. I don't know. When you're saying stuff, it's cutting out a little.
I was going to say, T. Michael was playing bass with y'all at that time. Of course, Mike.
Tom Brady was there for the first year. Yeah, he was there for the first year. And then T. Michael came on board about a year later.
Okay.
And he stayed even after I left, and formed my own band. So.
Right. And after those years, what came next for Lou Reid?
Well, I went, John Duffy was having trouble walking in airports. And I see him sitting down a lot. He was a heavy smoker. And he had done he was a heavy smoker. And so anyway, he just got to where he just sit down. And I knew something was wrong because I'd ask him about his health. Sometimes we'd ride just together, he and I in his van. And I'd say, well, how's everything? What did the doctor say last time? And he'd say, oh, doctor said my lungs are great. He said, it must be the singing, it helps keeping them cleared out and everything. But he didn't want to talk about his heart. And he had some heart problems too. Yeah. And I think that's what took him down, But I saw that coming. I could almost see it coming because a man, he was only 62 when he passed away. And I could see that coming. So Martin Parker, the drummer that I worked with in Ricky Skaggs' band, was with Vince Gill. And Vince was doing the Birchmere. And I forgot the guy, Tony King, I think it was. They were starting a trio thing. And he called me up, wanted to know if I wanted to come up to Birchmere. He had said, come up to the Birchmere. I think you'll have a good time. We're playing up there with Vince. I said, okay. And I wasn't doing anything that night. I don't remember what night it was, but it wasn't a Thursday night because we played there on Thursday night. And so I went up there, and Tony King came up. He says, Lou Reid said, man, how would you like to join Vince? And I said, man, I don't know about that. Going back to that same old thing again. So it was pretty much one of those things where I really liked Vince because we'd worked with Vince before when I was working with Ricky. And he's a real good guy, and we'd go out to clubs at night and stuff with Ian Tyson and just have a good time, after hours. And, he wanted someone. He asked me if I could fill in, and I said, well, I'll just do that. And I made the decision to start my own band. So I started working on all that and then filled in for some shows with him. And that's pretty much what that ended up being. Right. He wanted me to, I didn't want to do that heavy a job anymore. It's gone all the time, I have to admit it paid good, it good. And, but still your time sometimes is, it depends on what means the most to you. And I'd already passed that being gone all the time. So I owned my own band, and I figured I could do that and kind of work that in at the same time. So anyway, that's where I went. And then, I got a call from Third Time Out. I was getting ready to put my band together, but I couldn't really book anything much because it was like February, and you can't really book so close in, So I had to book like later on in the year. So I did that, and then Terry called and said, man, you need to go out with us to the West Coast. And I said, he said yes. And man, so Alan Bobby just up and left and went down to Carolina Theater down in Myrtle Beach and said he took a job down there, didn't give us no notice. He said, man, you're the only guy who can do this. I said, my gosh. And so I didn't take the job, but I went and helped them out for that year. But I ended up staying till Thanksgiving. And we worked Myrtle Beach that Thanksgiving. That was my last day. I done told them that I was going to have to move on. They lived so far from me. I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and they were in Atlanta, Georgia area. Of course, Terry lived in North Carolina, and Mike Hargrove lived in Virginia, but they got together and rode. That was just too far for me to have to go all the time.
Right.
But anyway, I for that summer and had a really good time with them. We even had a photo together done and everything for promotional. And
I saw that photo.
And then I told him I was going to leave, and then I got a call from Terry, man. He wanted to go with me. And I says, Terry, you're in a really good position where you are. You're not too far away from them. And he just didn't want to do that. He wanted to go with me. So I told him I'd do it as long as we could, maintain. But I'll tell you the truth, really, it's so hard to keep musicians together, keep them happy. That's harder than the music. They all want to play. But keeping them happy on the road and, what was keeping them grounded is the toughest thing I have ever dealt with in my life.
Yeah.
Band members. So anyway, when John Duffy passed away, it was a perfect opportunity when I got a call from Ben Aldridge, and he said, man, I think our fans would love to see a guy that played with the scene before and see a familiar face in the band again. And I decided, that's pretty easy. I don't have to book the band. I don't have to do anything. Show up and play guitar, sing, and that's all I got to do.
Right.
Thank you very much. That's pretty simplified for me.
Right. Yeah, that's getting to play guitar with the Seldom Scene there with those years with Duffy, and then, of course, getting to step back in that light and playing mandolin and singing the.
I didn't play stuff that for sure, but I did, but that position that needed someone. And at least I had the vocal range to do it. So, I remember Jimmy Goodrow came up to me and he said, buddy, I'm sure glad they didn't call me. I'd have had to turn it down. He said, there's no way I'd step in that position. I said, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing when I took that job.
Yeah, Jimmy had to pull it one time with the Country Gentleman, that's for sure.
I remember going to Virginia, Jimmy Haley and I and Jeff Hooker, and we went to see the Country Gentleman, and that would have been Eddie Adcock, John Duffy, Tom Gray, and Charlie Waller. And when we showed up, when they showed up and came out on stage, it was Jimmy Goodrow and Bill Emerson. And although at that very first shocked me, it's like, oh no, I couldn't handle the fact that Duffy wasn't there and Adcock wasn't there because I'd heard them play, on recordings. But when I heard them, I really did like it, I really enjoyed them very much, but that initial shock, it was like, oh no, I couldn't handle this. But we walked away really show, so it was fun.
We'll back up just a little bit for the folks watching. I know, and myself, we was big fans of the Carolina band, with you and Terry and Clay and man, it just, Marcus.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just two awesome recordings, man. And I know it influenced and turned a lot of younger kids on to bluegrass. And it was just two great albums, man. I loved them all.
You know, when we started, we went around and we tried different people out. I won't mention any names, but we tried some people out. And I wasn't a mandolin player. I owned a mandolin. However, I owned a Randy Wood mandolin. And it was a pretty good mandolin, but the player was not that good, you know. And we tried out mandolin players, and Terry didn't like them. He didn't like their chop.
Yeah.
He didn't care how they could pick, like their chop. And then Marcus would go, yeah, I don't know, you know. And then, so Terry said, Clay Jones was in Japan, and he was playing over there on some island. And he said, man, we need to get in touch. You know how Bob talks, or however he talks. He said, we need to get in touch with Clay Jones and get Clay over here, get Mr. Jones over here, man. So I worked with him with Larry Rice. And, oh, man, that'd be a great band, you know. I don't know if Terry didn't want me playing guitar. You know, I don't really know. And Terry, you listen to this. That might have been something you didn't want me to play. But anyway, that's the way we went. We put in a call to him, and he said, yeah, he was about finishing up anyway. And so, and he came over, and me and him and Terry and Marcus Smith got together. And I remember it's Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th. We decided we were a band. And the rest is history. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing that, you know. I remember I spent many, this is what broke me, many hours booking a 2-month tour of the West Coast. Yeah, it was about 2 months. But when we came back, and we played almost every day. We didn't have but about 4 or 5 days off in maybe 6 or 7, I can't remember, in 2 months' time. But the first festival we came back to play was Denton, North Carolina, when it was in July. Yeah. You know, back in July.
Y'all lit it up.
I remember we sold, I think it was $3,000 worth of records.
Wow.
And, yeah, we had them shipped to us while I was on the West Coast. And we did our first show. We really was tight because we'd played for 2 months solid. And we was picking in the room if we wasn't playing out on the road, you know. We just had a blast out there. It was so much fun. And it was tough being gone for 2 months, you know, my wife and kid at the time, but yeah. And for those guys too. But it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. We had some vehicle trouble while we was out there, but other than that, it was a good tour.
Y'all recorded those records, what, at Doobie Shea?
Doobie Shea, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Man, the sound.
Fort Burn. That Tim Austin's good, man.
It sure was. It sounds right there.
Tim Austin, great. Engineer.
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah, I remember he told me, he walked in there and I had different picks. He said, Lou, you got a different pick? I said, I don't know. Let me look. And I opened up my pick case, you know, and I started looking through, and I was using a tortoiseshell. And that's what I was using. And I picked up another old plastic looking pick. I used it, and he hit that button. He said, Lou, you got another pick you can use? And I picked up one of those 1.14 Dunlop. You know the one I'm talking about. You've probably seen them.
Oh, yeah.
And those in there. I think it was used. I picked it up. I got it out of my case, and I only hit like just a little bit. He hit that button. He said, that's your pick right there. That's what he said. I said, okay. So I stayed with that pick the whole entire time and I still use it today. I mean, not on, but I use that blue chip pick now. But most of the time I'll use that. That pick does have a warm sound to it. So.
Man, your mandolin tone sounded good on those records. For sure.
I tell you what, I'm no mandolin, but I tell you what, I'm no Darin on that mandolin. I'll tell you that.
I learned a bunch from listening to you. That's for sure.
I'll take some lessons from you though if you're offering up.
Well, I know you called me several times and we tried to work it out. We did a few gigs together, but I sure wish we could have done it.
Well, it would have been really fun. I know we could sing good together, but you got a pretty good partner singer right there, right beside you. So
that's right.
Well, thank you.
Well, I know y'all are still together with the Seldom Scene and doing a lot of shows.
Yeah. Hey, we have a siren going down. Hang on a minute. An ambulance, excuse me.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, now I can hear you.
Everything pandemic-wise, what's new with Lou Reid?
Well, I'm in Georgia right now. I'm not in North Carolina. I've met a person down here, and I've been down here now longer than I thought I'd be here.
Yeah.
And which is good. And so things are good there. I kind of brought Carolina to a halt. Working with the Seldom Scene and doing Carolina required a lot of work, and it also took away from the scene dates, you know, because I'd try to book around some of the things that the scene might do. That didn't mean we couldn't get a date on one of those dates that I would book. And one time I was doing about 30 or 35 dates and working with the scene too, and it was almost too much. I saw these sad faces and frowns and stuff when I'd go show up, and I decided I needed to change that. And getting older, Darin, so I just can't do all of that anymore. I just figure if I can work with the scene, that's enough for me. I'm past 60. That's all I'm going to say.
I hear you. Well, the Scene's a great band, and you're an awesome addition, as you always have been. That's for sure.
Well, we have a good time. We don't take it, when I worked with Doyle, he didn't want you to mess up, I mean, he wanted everything perfect, and I remember in that video on the 25th anniversary, I'm sorry, there's bugs and stuff out here, flying insects all around. So anyway, I remember that I believe it was Ray Deaton messed up, and he messed up his line or his words or something.
Oh,
Noel said, "Well, I am, Ray. If you wasn't already gone, I'd have to let you go." And that was pretty funny. But with the scene, John Duffy taught you don't take it so serious. And I mean, with his audience, now I'm only speaking of their audience. Darin and Brooke's audience might be different, if you know what I'm saying. But his audience, he could make a mistake and play off that as good as anyone I've ever seen in my life. And he might go a fret sharp or something. He'd say, "Oops, close." And the crowd would just laugh. Just laugh. See, he made them laugh. And I mean, people enjoyed that. And that's what I found in the scene, that it was more of a fun musical experience than a real serious. Now, I like the serious experience. Don't get me wrong. But to be able to be lighthearted about it, I just thought that was wonderful. A new thing for me. And so I've been here a long time, almost 30 years.
Yeah, man, Charlie was the same way. Him and Duffy, and I guess Eddie, they had this certain chemistry, and they could joke, sing, or fall off the stage, or run on the stage, or whatever, and they made it having a good time. I understand what you're saying.
You had a good time with them too. But I tell you what, when you take those guys right there, that was one of the best bands I listened to. Everyone. I mean, I listened to everyone from Monroe, Osmond Brothers, Jimmy Martin, Jim and Jesse. I listened to all of that stuff in the past, and Flat and Scruggs. I listened to all of that. But when I heard the Country Gentlemen, there was something about what they did and their harmony, and Charlie's baritone lead vocal that he had was just so unique and so great. And then when you put Duffy's tenor in there with him, and Eddie Adcock, probably one of the best low tenor baritone singers you'll ever hear. I thought that was just, my nerves have never been the same since I first heard them. And they were just great. We had to have just about all of their records, and we listened to them closely. And we won a lot of contests doing their stuff too. Material, And so, yeah, I'm a big Country Gentleman fan. Always have been.
Yeah, they was amazing band. I'm glad I got to spend a few years with them, and I appreciate all the advice and looking up to you during that time when I was young and getting to play with those guys.
You was probably taller than me than when you looked up to me,
I'm still looking up to you, man.
Oh, man. I got to stand on stilts.
Well, one more question just about
okay.
North Carolina style here, and you've contributed so much to that with records, with naming your band that, with the different players coming through. What would you say just makes it a special thing with Carolina musicians?
Well, like yourself. Brooke, you're from North Carolina, correct? all you guys. And, you know, from Terry Balkin, let's just go on back to Earl Scruggs. You know, he set that energy and that drive in the music. And I feel like drive is not speed, but it's that continuous motion that's almost on top of the beat, but not rushing. And to me, that's what drive really is. You can do a slow song with drive.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, usually if music has drive in it, it's not as airy feeling, you know, because it's driving solid. So when we came up with Carolina, we just got to thinking about it. We almost didn't do it because of the ball team, you know, and all this. And we just got to thinking, but we named it Carolina after the Carolinas, but we didn't want to say Lou Reid, Terry Balkin, and the Carolinas, which would be stupid. After North and South Carolina, you know, because they used to be one.
Right.
And that's why we named it Carolina. Because it was just so unique, because the musical sound from that area have that drive. And I don't know of one band from North Carolina at any fiddlers convention that I've ever been to that didn't have that drive. They all have that heart that's pounding just on top of the beat. I don't know. Their soul is there. I don't know how else to put it, you know. I mean, it's just different. You can go to California, and although that's good, but it's a different flavor of bluegrass music.
It is.
Yes. It's different in Kentucky. It's good in Kentucky, but it's still different. Now, you J.D. Crow's got to drive. I wore his out too, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but I think Carolina has produced some great musicians and some great music, you know, from different people. And I'll say we're in the top 3 states, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You know, that produce great musicians, myself excluded.
No, so you're one of the biggest, man. That's for sure. In my book.
I appreciate you saying that, Darin.
Oh yeah, always been a favorite of mine, man. Thank you so much again, Lou, for joining us today. And again, you know I love you. I appreciate you singing on my
Lou, I love you guys too, man. And you know, congratulations on all your awards and stuff you've won. And thanks for doing this. I know some people would like to know what's going on in people's lives, and especially at this time. It's this pandemic it's just about brought everything to a halt. You know, you can't hardly do anything anymore. You know, you got to have a mask with you, whether they require it in a store or wherever you're going, restaurant. You have to have it with you just about all the time, and you really need to have it with you. So anyway, I really enjoyed this. Thanks for reaching out. I'm sorry it took a few days to make it happen, but I really do appreciate you guys.
The honor is all ours, man. Thank you.
Hey, it's been fun for me, so I enjoyed it.
Again, thank you again here at the Carolina Sessions and Mr. Lou Reid.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.